My coworker destroyed the PTA. I worked in a state senator's office with a very smart and capable mom. She was the senator's aide, but that was only for part of the year, and I'm fairly certain she didn't really have a career apart from that. But incredibly capable, this lady would always surprise me with the things she had done. Like once she casually mentioned the time she had gone to some conference in Australia to give a speech, and I was like, wait, what? Quote, my favorite thing she told me about was when she destroyed her local PTA. So in the States we have these organizations called parent-teacher associations. It's a national organization with local chapters for different schools. They exist to foster relations between parents and teachers, but usually just turn into lots of Karens making unnecessary rules, getting upset over stupid things, and generally causing problems, usually staffed by the type of people who like to create and solve problems to justify their existence. Sort of like in wafer schools. Anyway, this lady was no Karen. She didn't create problems, she solved them. She hated the PTA at her children's school. It was always causing problems and had budget problems when it finally began getting field trips and recess banned and wasting fundraising money and membership dues on administrative costs. Among other issues, she decided she had had enough. She joined the PTA, worked her way through its ranks, volunteered at all the events, ran for office, and became president of the PTA. She then used the bylaws and her influence to disband the chapter. The kicker is then she created her own local club to replace the PTA. One that wasn't influenced by a national parent organization and bureaucracy. She was able to raise tons of money for awesome events, projects, and trips for the students, and ran the club way more effectively than the PTA had ever been. And everyone at the school lived happily ever after. Such a cool lady. TLDR coworker pulls a Ron Swanson and replaces her local PTA with her own organization. One of my wife's friends was coaxed into running for president of our elementary school PTA a few years ago. What they didn't realize was that this unassuming lady was a monster fundraiser in real life. For that 1 year the PTA was glorious and did great things for the school. It returned to mediocrity the following year because she refused to run again because nobody else helped. These things are all about the people. It wasn't the national organization dragging them down. It was just the lazy suburban soccer moms who wanted the glory without the work. That's why many schools, my kids included, have a PTO organization, rather than a PTA. The latter is trademarked by the national group and you have to pay dues to them in order to call yourself a PTA. PTO has no such restriction. And it's all about benefiting the kids and teachers rather than the organization. My kids' PTA voted to not tell parents that head lice was rampant in 2 of the classrooms, and the school nurse agreed. They didn't want a pessimistic vibe, something like that, to affect the school. Yeah, that didn't work. Edit, the school nurse, not 3 school nurse. I'm reminded of a certain quote by Futurama's Bender. Your coworker sounds like she has amazing force of personality. Sort of like in wafer schools. Best description of the PTA I have ever seen. For years the PTA bothered me to join. My husband is a teacher. I told them no way in hell. Lord knows what I'd be blamed for if I was any more than an unassuming face in the room. Any participation on my part would be suspect. I joined the PTA once. Found out that if money went missing from fundraisers at all, money everyone in the group handled, I could literally end up in a police investigation for like 50 missing bucks. We keep our money in a fucking Ziploc in a locked filing cabinet in a room tons of people have access to. Filing cabinets aren't exactly impenetrable. Mind you, I asked for a rule book or guide or something several times when I was thinking of joining. No one had, and the school legally has to have one. The parent coordinator was damn near crying, and I, the fool, felt bad, because I knew literally nothing about the PTA. I only ended up at a meeting because they literally herded us into it, separating me from my kids with no explanation and upsetting my 7-year-old. They told me all I had to do was show up at meetings and take notes. Liars forgot to mention that they also run all the book fairs and photo days and all the movie nights, etc., etc. I figure, sure, I can take some meeting notes. No problem. So I joined. Then I got to find out how much legal trouble I could be in if I, or somebody else, fucked up any part of this volunteer job. Never again. Great story. Not sure if you are aware of, but PTAs exist in a lot of schools all over the world. You aren't wrong though. Some of these groups cause more issues than solve any. I love how her end goal was to destroy them and create an even more effective organization. She's the parent equivalent of a modern-day Trojan horse. But in her case, likely in her old Navy duds who bakes and shit lol. To clarify for those outside the US, and maybe a different viewpoint, vast majority of PTAs are not a bunch of Karens but parents getting involved with school to help out the teachers with fundraisers, classroom equipment, fun days for the kids, etc. Yes, there are Karens, but I can say that about every organization. The PTA I was a proud member of provided the school a new theater, books for the library, prizes for fun days, took over responsibility for the playground to free up money for the classroom. The achievement I'm most proud of is that we made sure that each and every student went on the field trips regardless of ability to pay. One of the previous treasurers of our PTA was stealing money from the organization. My mother took over the treasurer position and found discrepancies. The money was regained after the PTA sued her. Who banned recess? Ho is for schools. Made me laugh. My mom was my PTA president in elementary school. She figured that the school would actually start accommodating my autism once she controlled the money. They didn't care. She hated it, and I got bullied worse. And that's how my mama socked it to the Harper Valley PTA. My dad got asked to be the PTA president of my school, mostly because no one else wanted the job. My dad, the 6 feet plus, heavily tattooed, bearded, pierced biker who regularly swore at students when they piss him off. He volunteered at the canteen, and hated bureaucracy. He turned it down. Why would I want to be in charge of a bunch of bitchy housewives who have nothing better to do than complain I put too much bacon in the bacon burgers? Quote. Reminds me of Don't Be a Menace in the classiest way. When Lockdog says he wants to work at a bank and work his way up to manager and then rob that motherfucker blind. Sort of like in Waffer schools. Exactly. I wouldn't be surprised if they were staffed by the same people. That's not how most school PTAs are organized. Most are local only with no national affiliation. Bizarre. Let me pretext that I served in a state senate office as well, and now am on a school committee in another state. PTAs exist both here in my old state as private associated 501c3s designed to work and support the schools by raising or targeting specific issues but hold no real power. They did things like improve the playground after approval from the public officials in charge, or hold reading day and organize snacks and events for the kids. A school committee will, on the other hand, set budget, policy and procedure, as it is them who are the boss of the superintendent and school administration. They are elected and are governed by a town, city charter or the state statute. I am curious to what state s allow PTAs, a private independent organization, oversee publicly administered funds for public education. Can you fill me in a bit? Interesting that some PTAs can be like bad homeowner associations. Run by power-hungry dictators who have long forgotten the positive purpose of the organization. I've never run into a PTA like that, and all the PTAs from my kids' schools, all public schools, have been full of genuinely helpful parents who did great fundraising to sponsor things the school district wasn't able to fund, like music, art, teacher supplies, field trips, scholarships, and in one case a full-time teacher's aide to reduce class sizes. Sorry, your PTA experience was so bad. I'm lucky to have only found great PTA at our schools. If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Caracast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.